Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our second webinar of our Sales Pad webinar series in 2024. My name is Elizabeth Morse. I'm the event manager here at Cavallo. We have a super awesome year planned with these webinars. Like I said, this is just the second one of the year. We have a great lineup for the remainder of the year, and you can view that entire lineup on our new events page, which is www.cavallo.com/events-schedule. You can register for all the webinars as well as look back at past webinars and view the recordings. So super handy tool there. As far as today goes, we have about a 40-minute presentation lined up. And then we will definitely be sure to save time for questions at the end. If you do have questions at any point, feel free to use that Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen. You don't need to wait until the very end to plug in your questions. Feel free to plug them in real time, and we'll do our best to get to all of them at the very end. I do want to remind everyone that today's webinar is being recorded, so you will be able to view it in the future or be able to pass it on to coworkers. We're super excited to have Mike Raden, Senior Sales Engineer, with us today. He's going to share more about our Powerhouse Module Returns Tracker. This module helps you manage any issues that may arise with your customers' orders and returns. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Mike and kick us off.
Yeah, thanks for kicking things off for us, Elizabeth. As she mentioned, my name is Mike Raden. I am a senior sales engineer here at Cavallo. I've been with the organization for about 2.5 years now. Just a little bit about me. I went to Grand Valley State University, which is right up the road from our headquarters here in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Some of my favorite hobbies include hiking and visiting national parks. These two pictures I've included. The top one, left one, is from Banff National Park in Canada, and the right image is from Zion National Park in Utah. I also like to golf and play pickleball in my spare time when we're not fighting through the winter here in Michigan. For today's webinar, for our agenda, I'm first going to introduce Returns Tracker and its primary function. This might be repeat information for some of those of you who are already using Returns Tracker or have seen a demo before, but want to make sure everyone's caught up. Before we set the stage a little bit for the demo and go over some of the things we're going to solve and bring value to. Then we'll jump into the demo and sales pad. We'll do a quick recap or wrap up of what we've covered. And lastly, we'll have time at the end for those questions and answers. Oops, sorry, skipped one there. So what is Returns Tracker? It was formerly known as Case Tracker for those of you who've been around for a while, and it really is a returns and a case or ticket management system that lives directly in SalesPad. One of the primary functions certainly is the ability to generate returns or reorders, but you can also create cases for other issues and requests as well, whether that's an update to a customer's billing preferences, they've opened a new location, they have address change. Anything that a customer might interact with your team for could be used in Case Tracker. You can easily track tickets from beginning to end while capturing issues, causes, and resolutions that are totally configurable to you and your business. You have the ability to assign specific team members to cases that will help provide extra visibility and clarify responsibilities. Any additional details that you might need to capture is no problem. You have the ability to attach documents, utilize user-defined fields, or even link past customer requests. And finally, gain control of your returns and ticketing process by using our workflow. So if you're familiar with our sales document workflow, we also have a business object workflow for Returns Tracker as well, where you can email, print, or route your cases at different stages according to your business processes. A little more about what we're going to talk about today. Let's talk about what I like to call the return maze. And why are you in a return maze? Maybe the return process in your organization is complex. You have a relatively high volume of returns, something that we'd hopefully want to minimize over time. You have a lot of touch points in your current process, or you're using maybe manual or paper processes that aren't the most efficient. There could also be the necessity for communication across departments, and that can be difficult or inefficient, and things might get missed or delayed in the daily shuffle, and you're not operating as efficiently as possible. And lastly, finding relevant information is difficult and can lead to wasted time. When you don't have a systematic approach to tracking your returns and cases with your customers, it can be hard to manage those and have all the information at your fingertips to be able to provide the best service possible. So how can you supercharge your customer service with Returns Tracker? With Returns Tracker, you'll find faster resolution times with increased efficiency, enhanced visibility, and clear accountability throughout the entire process, in what should have a positive impact on your customer experience and satisfaction. So that was a quick introduction, but we're gonna go ahead and jump right into the demo. So let me switch gears here and share my screen. All right, so it looks like SalesPad is pulled up on my end. So I want to start very basic with how you might actually use Returns Tracker from a customer service perspective. Perhaps I just received a call or email from a customer wanting to initiate a return. With the Returns Tracker module activated, there's several different places where you can create or start that return or case process. One of those being from the customer card. So if I'll just do a wide open search on my customer. If I navigate to the customer card, I'll have a tab for Return Trackers entries. If I click on that, I'll be able to see any previous or currently open cases that I have for that customer. This is one of my popular demo customers, so I have several here. I can see which of these are historical or closed, and I can also see what status any of these cases are in. If it is tied to a sales document number, I'll have that information and link available, or I could go directly to the case to get more information. But this will really let you see all that detail as it pertains to a customer. And as I click those different cases, I can see in the detail section to the right exactly what item number might be building that case if it is a return or defective item that I am looking at. So creating that case can be assigned to a specific doc number, or I could create a case for a customer request that doesn't have to do with the specific order. Like I mentioned, change to billing terms or address or new locations, anything they might reach out to you for that wouldn't be tied to a specific document. You can also create a case from the inventory lookup screen. So if I am looking at an item, and I'll just type in one here, there's also a tab for Returns Tracker history here, where this isn't going to show me any one specific customer, but it'll show me all the different times that this item has had a case open against it. So I can start to gather information if that item is seeming to be problematic, but I could also just go ahead and create that case directly from here or open an existing case. Probably the most efficient way to open a case or return, if it is tied to a specific sales document and it is a return, is to go ahead and do that directly from the document, because that's going to pull in all the document information as well as the customer information. So I'm going to do a quick search for one of my documents, and I know it starts with this, and we'll just go ahead and do that search. So I can see all of my historical invoices, and perhaps in that email or call I got from the customer, I know that that document number is 214. So I'm just going to navigate down to that one here. I'm going to go ahead and open the sales document. And then there'll also be that Return Trackers entry tab on the sales document. If I go ahead and click that tab and select a new case, it's going to know the details of the order, so I can see those specific items that are on the order. And then if they only want to return one item that they'd ordered, for example, I can go ahead and select that very specific item, and I have a serial number in this case. So I'll go ahead and select one of those iPhones and go ahead and create my case. That's automatically going to open up the Return Tracker entry screen where it's pulled in my customer information, it's pulled in that sales doc number that's linked, and now there are a few fields that I need to fill out. So there's a contact field. The customer I'm working with is Bob Fitz, but perhaps someone else called, I'd want to put in their contact information. I'll just go ahead and put in Bob Fitz for this example. And then case type is a user-defined field that I've set up in my environment just so I can route different types of cases or returns to different teams or to different processes. So in this case, it's just a normal return. I'm going to go ahead and select that case type, and that's going to send it to a very specific workflow. And the status, I keep this simple. It's either open or closed. I'm going to use the queue in my workflow to let me know kind of where a document's at any given point in time. And then I also have the ability to assign this to a specific user. So I have some pretty generic names in here. I'm going to go ahead and just choose my CSR user to go ahead and assign that. And now if I was the person doing intake, I might add some comments. You have the ability to attach resources or build out interactions if you want to provide more detail. But perhaps I'm just processing the initial request. I don't have any more information right now besides knowing that the customer said they ordered the wrong item or too many. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that issue in. I would attach any other information I had as well. But now that I save that, I can see that a queue was assigned. That's now in the new case queue. The CSR is assigned. So now as the person doing the intake for this issue, I might go ahead and forward this document. That's going to go ahead and kick off a notification to the user that's been assigned this specific returner case. So if I pull over my email real quick, I got that message where you can build out different subjects, different bodies in the email, but this just says, hello CSR, you've been assigned a specific case for this customer, and then whatever other details you might want to put in there to be able to let them know that that's been assigned to them. Where further visibility would exist is under the returns tracker ribbon here. There's a workflow monitor specific to the different types that I have set up. So as I mentioned, I have several different workflows that I might use. Maybe I'm only responsible for the standard. I would only have that filtered on my view, but now I can go ahead and see all of those that are assigned to me. If I was CSR, I could go ahead, filter that, know exactly what's assigned to me, what I should be working on. But now I have that new case that's been assigned to me that I'll continue to process. If I go back to that case, as I'm processing again, I might include resources or emails I've had back and forth with the customer. But in this case, I'm going to go ahead and start processing. Maybe I learned that the cause was a customer order error, and now we're going to actually go ahead and do a return for a full refund. All of these issues, causes, and resolutions are configurable in the returns tracker setup, so you can set these up to be whatever value that you want it to be that's going to make the most sense for the different interactions you have with your customers. But now that's in that, I got that cause and resolution. Maybe I want my manager to know that this is in process, it's been assigned, I'm working with the customer to actively get this resolved. And now I want to be able to actually generate that return. So returns tracker really works with the SOP document returns. So if I go to the reorder and returns tab, I have the option to create a totally new order, a reorder from the document that I've linked this to, or to do a return. In this case, I'm going to do a return. This is where I'm going to want to select that specific item that we're looking at. It was this serial number ending in 131. So I'll just select that item to generate the return. And there's a few different options if you want to provide credits to your customer upon return, or if you wanted to, on the flip side, charge something like a restocking fee or charge for the freight that's going to cost to send it back if you're sending them a return label. You can enter in either of those credits or those charges here. For the sake of simplicity, I'm going to go ahead and leave those blank and just go ahead and click OK. And then if I do have multiple return document types set up, I'd have to select one. I'm just going to go ahead and choose my standard return. And then you have the ability in your return workflow to build that out to look how you'd want to. Maybe that first queue in your return workflow is going to be an auto forwarding email that sends a return label or a return document to the customer that you want them to include when they send that back to you. So I think there is a tab open on another screen here. Okay. Yep. Did not see that pop up on my other screen. So now we have that return created for just that specific item. And for simplicity of this demo, this is when I'd contact the customer, let them know to go ahead and send this item back. I'd probably want to send some documentation for them to return so we knew exactly what we were receiving and who it came from. But I'm going to go ahead and release this into my pending item. We'll imagine a couple days or a week went by, and now we're ready to actually receive this item. It's going to work very similar to fulfillment from the sales side, where we're essentially going to do reverse fulfillment. So say what quantity is being returned, what bin that's coming from, or what bin we're going to put that away in, and ultimately what that return number is. So I did not select the right bin for that, so we'll just go ahead right. I'm not sure what bin that was going to be in, so I'm just going to ignore that part. But we would be able to go ahead and then release this once we return that item. And now that that's been processed, that would be our cue to come back in here and go ahead and actually close this case. So now I'd move it over to a closed queue. And then depending how you'd want to handle your process, you might want to keep those open for a few days as you make sure they're fully resolved. But I have a setting that as soon as I change the status to closed, it's going to mark this document as historical. So we'll see that in real time as I move that to closed. Some of these fields become non-changeable, and I can see that this case is marked as historical, which will then drop it off of my view here as well. So that's a pretty simple case of how you might handle a return. Handling another ticketer case would be very similar. You'd probably open directly from the customer and just choose those different issue cause resolutions that tie to that. I want to show how the process just looks slightly different if I just change what type of case I'm doing. So I'm going to go ahead and look for another invoice. Just close some of these tabs I have open. So another invoice I have, and maybe this one, there was an issue with freight. So when I go ahead and create that return, I'm going to choose that different case type. This happens to be a simple order with just one item on it. Contact, maybe the contact's different this time. We'll do the contact as John Carter. Sounds good. And the case type is freight. Maybe the product was actually damaged when they received it. The box was all messed up and the product didn't work functionally. So they want to return and open that case with us. So go ahead and save that as a freight, open. And maybe this one I'm going to assign to a different person. Maybe there's a different team that handles our logistics related cases. So I'm going to go ahead and actually assign this to our dispatch person who's in charge of scheduling all of our freight. So now I'll go ahead and do that. I'll save that case. And now I can see if I switch off my standard case tracker to my freight case, do a refresh, I now have that new case here. So I know if I'm in charge of these related cases to follow up here. And I can go ahead and forward this as well, which is going to kick off a totally different notification email to a different team member. So this specifies that it's a freight case, calls that out in the email, lets them know they might need to follow up with the carrier. And then I'm also providing different shipping information. So when did it actually ship? What was the shipping method? Any other detail that might be pertinent. So I can change that based on the type of case that's created as well. Then I might have totally different issues and causes I use. So maybe this was damaged. My cause now is really that it was damaged in shipping and FedEx was the carrier. It's in logistic review. I'm currently working on it. So I'm going to go ahead and forward it and save it. So now I have those two issues and causes in there. And this would be a case where I might go and add a resource, would be a perfect example of where I might want to include an image. The customer said the package was damaged. Okay, do you have a picture of that package so we can see that and kind of have that communication with the carrier? I now have that attached to the case. I can open a copy of that and see an example of a damaged package. So just so we have that ammo when we have that conversation with the carrier to see what might have happened. And all the different case types that I can select will route to a different workflow. So I just wanted to show how that might look a little bit differently based on the type that's selected, how it might go to a different user, and how you can communicate and add full transparency to those different teams as necessary. What I wanted to jump to next was a slightly different and more unique scenario. So this is definitely something that's come up with a lot of our customers in the past. In a lot of cases, we aren't necessarily selling to the end customer or consumer. However, we might be responsible for processing the returns, fulfilling a warranty, or sending replacement parts. So how can we go about that using Returns Tracker here in SalesPad? So this is going to work best in scenarios where the product that we're selling is serialized, so that we have the opportunity to assign it to a new customer through the equipment module. If the product's not serialized, we don't have as much flexibility in assigning that item to a new user. But in cases where we're selling it to a distributor who's selling it to an end consumer, it's probably beneficial to have that serial information so we know that they're legitimate returns and not fraudulent. So if I go to my equipment management tab and do an equipment lookup, perhaps the end consumer reached out to our customer service team directly. They had a specific item they want to return and they knew the serial number. So then we can say, okay, yeah, this item hasn't been returned before. We can kind of double check with who they purchased it from to make sure it was who we sold to. And we can do some of those checks just to make sure that it is a legitimate return. So I'm going to go ahead and find a specific item that I sold to American Science. So we're just going to go ahead and choose this serial number. Within the equipment module, I can see the history of this item, who it's been sold to, the history of that item, so all the different customers that item has been sold to. But I really want to focus on the returns tracker side of things here. So this is going to tie it to this very specific serial equipment number. So if I go ahead and create a new case, I will get a pop-up that says this equipment is currently assigned to American Science. Would you like to use this customer for the new case? If they were the end user, great, I'd say yes. But in this case, they sold it to someone else, and that's who I want to process the return for. So I'm going to select no, which is then going to require me to select a customer to assign it to. I probably don't want to create a new customer for every end customer that my customers sell to. So I've gone ahead and created a return customer where I can keep track of that information. So I have this return customer here, and you really have two good options. If you want to create a new contact under that customer for everyone who returns, you can absolutely do that if you need to track that level of information on the customer card. But again, that could grow over time depending how many returns you're getting. So you could also use user-defined fields to be able to track that customer information just at the case level. In my example, I actually created a new contact already, John Doe. So you would have to create this contact before creating the case as you're going to do that return. But I've gone ahead and created that new contact. So I'm going to put them here in the contact. And this one is a quality return. So this looks a little bit different from my freight or normal return. So I'm going to go ahead and leave this as open, and I'm going to assign it to myself. So now I have another new return created. It's for a different customer than my original customer because it's who they sold it to. Now I might want to track additional information. There was a field failure. This is a quality issue. Cause was defective product, and I'm going to work to resolve this. Now, where Returns Tracker is great and extremely configurable is you have the ability to add user fields to track any additional data points that you might want to capture. So perhaps for my quality cases, if I'm selling medical equipment, I really need to be able to track a lot of this information. So I might want to know what division sold it, the date of the procedure. Can go ahead and select that. Was a product altered in any way? And you can make predefined options that the user has to select before. So I'll just go through and do some of these real quick. So then I can track all of that information over time so we know exactly what happened in this case. We'd be able to do reporting on this information later if we needed to do any summaries, or if we had to provide this information to another party. We'd have this all captured at time of entering. So I'll go ahead and save that. And it just really shows how you can handle those returns for items that were sold to customers besides your end customer, and be able to go ahead and process that. So then I could go ahead, do that reorder, that return where I'd really need that address information. And I could pull that off a UDF, but that is where using the contact makes it a little easier. You can maintain their address information, and you can go ahead and process the return like we saw earlier. Well, the other things I wanted to show that could be very impactful activity as far as your return and case data goes is the ability to report on it. So like with any data set within GP or SalesPad, you can use our reporting and dashboard modules to create and show what data is relevant to you. So I actually have a dashboard that's been created that shows a lot of the information for my return tracker module. And this can help me make decisions based on what issues are we seeing often, what have been the causes we've seen most frequently, and what is our typical resolution. And hopefully, as I start to capture this data, start to see it, I can start kind of finding patterns and identify, okay, we've had a lot of damaged product in this case. it's been defective, or I've seen a lot of shipping damage from UPS. So maybe it's an issue with the carrier that we need to resolve, or maybe it's our packaging isn't sturdy enough and it's something we need to change internally. But these get me to start asking the right questions so that I can start to make those process improvements. You can also see all of the open cases. If I'm a manager and I want to know what kind of cases my team is working on, how long they've been open, what status they're in, I can change this grid to give me all of that different information. But I can also look and say, is there a specific customer that seems to have a lot of issues? And it could just be the volume of business you do with that customer, but maybe it's something going on in the products you're selling that customer, or just specific to those interactions with that customer. And you can start to kind of break down that information. You can see this in a grid view if you want to as well. And then kind of lastly in this dashboard is just looking at your cases by items. Do I have a problematic item? Is it susceptible to failure? Is it not fulfilling the needs of my customers? Is there some kind of issue I need to look at internally to resolve? But as you start kind of piecing that together, you can start making those decisions to really work on that process improvement side of things. Another area that can be helpful and help you improve your process and customer experience is by implementing like operating level agreements, or just a level of service that you want to be able to provide to your customer. And there's different ways you can do that, and it'd be specific to your process. But if you take a look, if I go back to returns tracker and go to the case monitor, we have fields for queue days and queue hours. So if you want to make sure that nothing's getting stuck in a certain process in your issue resolution, you can add those fields to this view. So if I go to column chooser, I can see queue days, I can see queue hours, and I could use those fields to trigger reporting, potentially to send a notification, or I can even just add something as simple as conditional formatting, where I want to highlight anything greater than 400 in this example, because I see I have a few that are above that, and I want to fill that with red. So I'm immediately calling attention to that. So either as a manager, I can follow up with my team, or as a CSR, I know, oh, this one seems to be stuck here longer than it should be. I should really follow up on this. And perhaps there's a logical reason, something with the customer, you're not getting information you need. They need to have that ability to put any notes in there to clarify that, or have that conversation with your manager. But it brings attention to anything that hasn't seen a change in queue for a certain amount of time, and you can use that to drive reporting and potential notifications. So that's what I had for the demo. So I'm going to switch back to the presentation here. So Returns Tracker, your customer service superhero. A few of the things we saw made possible with Returns Tracker: the ability to seamlessly track your returns and issues from initiation to resolution, the streamlined issue resolution process and total visibility, utilizing notification emails, workflow queues to know exactly who is working on what and the current status it is in your process, and then being able to quickly and efficiently resolve those issues, enhancing your customer's experience. And it looked different for every organization, but seeing the ongoing commitment to continuous process improvement, the ability to capture details and use reporting and dashboards to tell a story and diagnose those recurring problems, or to set parameters around OLAs and visually bring attention to those cases needing that specific set of eyes on them. So if you joined us last month, you might have already heard, or if you follow us on socials, but I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Elizabeth to talk about a beta opportunity with one of our exciting new products.
Yes, thank you, Mike. Thank you for your demonstration. I'm sure a few of those examples that you shared resonate with the folks on the call today. But you're right, we have a super new, exciting development. It's called Profit Analytics. It's a game-changing new business intelligence solution for distributors. Like you mentioned, we are currently in the beta phase, and that's really where all of you come in. So we're seeking more beta participants. We already have a lot, and it's been fantastic getting their feedback. But of course, we have unlimited spots for this beta, and it runs to the end of Q1. So time is of the essence here. This is essentially one of our last calls because we want to be able to get our beta customers on board with the product, using it, seeing some ROI, as well as give you time to give us really good feedback on what you love about the product, what you don't love about the product, things you'd like to maybe see different. So time is winding down here, but it's not too late. So a little bit about Profit Analytics. It combines AI and machine learning with pre-structured visualizations. It's built to empower users of Dynamics GP and 365 Business Central with unparalleled insight into factors affecting your company's margin. So companies can tap into massive amounts of data about thousands of SKUs and customers. It's really, really cool. I know Mike and I have had the privilege of seeing several demos internally, and we're getting some really, really great feedback. In fact, one of our current beta customers they're located in Grand Rapids, Michigan. They're currently building a brand new headquarters. And the owner of the company has stated that he plans on putting TV screens above every cubicle with Profit Analytics because the data is just so powerful and creates such huge visibility into margin for the business. So pretty cool feedback. They're obviously finding a lot of ROI in it, but we're always seeking more feedback. So on the next screen, there will be a QR code. Just let us know if you're interested by scanning that QR code and filling out a super short form. And we will get in touch with you very quickly because, like I said, we're limited on timing and we want to maximize beta customer time in the product. So we're going to shift gears. It's time for some Q&A. Mike, that was a really good presentation. We have a few questions already. So we're just going to dive right in. The first one coming from our friend Jason. He sent this kind of midway throughout the presentation when you were showing some examples of those email communications, email notifications that you can send through Returns Tracker. Curious if there's been a simpler way to add sent and receive emails to and from a customer or even CSR responses. The resources emails are great to see what has been sent to the customer as communication, but is there an easier way to see any responses related to that email? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, so Jason's right. Currently, it is easier to see those sent emails. You can send an email directly from the case tracker tab on the interactions. You can send that email, but there isn't a way for that two-way communication that we have without custom currently to be able to include that return email back in SalesPad as well. So yeah, that is a limitation of the system right now. It's good for capturing those outgoing emails, but the incoming emails would have to be manually attached still.
Good to know. Awesome. Hope that helps, Jason. Stacy is wondering, they currently have Returns Tracker, formerly known as Case Tracker, but they don't have the dashboard view. Is that an additional add-on or how does that work, Mike?
As our licensing has changed over time, reporting has kind of come and gone with different SKUs. So I'm gonna have to take a look at your specific licensing, but it might just be a matter of it's not turned on or it's not something that you have accessible to you currently. But we can definitely follow up on that to figure it out. But the reporting and dashboards is it's could or could not be its own SKU depending on when your licensing started. So it's a good question. The reports and dashboards don't necessarily, it doesn't come loaded with reports and dashboards. So it is something you have to build out. And our team, our implementation team can certainly help with that. We do have some kind of canned reports, but they don't always work because every customer's data is different. So sometimes it's just best to have one created.
Mike, while you mentioned it, so canned reports, what type of maybe pre-built reports are included in the dashboard? Are there any?
Yeah, so not by default. If there's something specific you're looking for, we probably have a library of reports and dashboards that we can try and pass along. But as I kind of mentioned, depending on how your data looks, it might not work based on the data that was pulled into that report or dashboard. But it's something that's pretty straightforward for our professional services team to help build, or if you have somebody on your team that's pretty strong in SQL to be able to build those reports as well.
Good deal. Does Returns Tracker work with the RMA process?
So not directly. The returns process within Returns Tracker, Case Tracker is built around the SOP document type of return, but that's not to say that it couldn't be used together with the RMA process to still be able to track different stages throughout the process, collect information. It just wouldn't be generating that RMA directly from Returns Tracker.
Got it. And then looks like last one, is there a limitation to the amount of different return and case workflows you can build in the system?
No, there's no limit. I think we saw I have 4 or so set up. You could create as many as you want to support different teams or different processes that different types of cases or returns are going to have to go through. It'd just be about assigning those and setting up the notifications to go to the right people.
Very good to know. Thank you. It looks like that concludes all of our questions. Thank you, Mike, for your time and presenting for valuable information. Of course, most of all, thank you to all of you for spending some time out of your busy Thursday with us. We hope you found this super valuable. We hope to see you next month. Our next webinar is on March 21st. It's going to be on Inventory Manager and how you can fail-proof your inventory operations. If you'd like to dive deeper or have any questions about what you heard today, just let us know. You can simply scan this QR code on the screen, fill out a short form, let us know what we can help with. Or if you know who your AE is, reach out directly to them. They're ready to help. Lastly, when you exit the webinar, there will be a really short and sweet survey about 3 questions. We always appreciate feedback. And once again, thanks for joining us, and we hope you all have a great afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.